Wait a minute. Do you hear me now?
Oh, oh hello, Mr.
Morning.
Zukerman. How are you?
Make your acquaintance.
Likewise.
All right, where do you?
Oh, so sorry about that.
Well, here we are.
Yeah.
What
Well,
show? Where do you want to begin?
oh my gosh. Well, why don't we I'm very curious to hear a little bit about you. Um, of course, and how you got to know Jean Coulthard, and you wrote, or you had so many works commissioned by her, by the looks of it.
We were a small. Vancouver was a small city in the 50s and 60s, and we all knew everybody.
Oh, really?
So I'd met Jean at social events, and I knew she was a composer. I didn't know much whether she knew much about the bassoon.
Hmm.
Uh, I know I saw her quite frequently when she premiered pieces, because John Avison, who conducted our radio orchestra, the last North American radio orchestra that survived right through until about 8 years ago.
Hmm.
He passed away many years ago, but he was very fond of her works and often brought his composition to the radio studio. It was a hothouse studio. We would come in and literally rehearse and broadcast the same day. And before the 70s, union rules did not allow recording, so everything was done live to air, and it was incredibly sloppy. It was unbelievable. It would never have passed muster with any sort of recording techniques today.
Hmm.
On the other hand, it was very natural, and Gene's stuff was very earthy, and we all sort of appreciated its vague hint of a sense of native connection, which she didn't claim. She didn't claim to be any heritage of the native community, but she felt very much that she was part of it.
Hmm.
She was she was married to a chap by the name of her husband was a semi-politician and quite wealthy, and they lived in West Vancouver. I visited them a couple of times in their very smart apartment, which in the 70s was quite a novelty in Vancouver. We didn't have much in the way of high-rise and modern architecture that struck you as being, oh, this is a new city. And he grew up on the other side of the bridge, even on West Vancouver.
Hmm.
I knew Jean also through a violinist who you may have heard the name of, Tom Rolston.
Yeah.
He was for many years. He began in Scotland, actually, as a member of the Scottish National Orchestra, where I first met him. I turned up as soloist, and he was there. He was from Vancouver, and was threatening even then to return to Vancouver. Then he married a very beautiful Scottish lass by the name of Isabel Moore, who they came to Canada. He became the director of music at Banff and concertmaster of the Edmonton Symphony. He was a fine soloist, and he knew Jean personally very well, and a number of works were written for her. The first major work that Jean wrote for me, and I tried to find it this morning and was unsuccessful, but I will locate it for you later, was a sextet for wind quintet. Do you know the piece? Do you have access to it?
Yeah, I actually, through the Canadian Music Center, I've got access.
More and more. So the sextet, I don't think it was officially dedicated to me, but it was given to me for, it must have been 1967, for, I think we premiered it at the Montreal Expo.
Hmm.
And my pianist then was a chap by the name of Harold Brown, who, one of these remarkable unschooled pianists who could sight read a Brahms symphony from a score and make it sound as if the whole orchestra was there. Could even do it with Mahler. It was quite astonishing. But he was very fond of Jean personally.
Hmm.
And he was the premier on that work. But many of her later works, when she started writing seriously for bassoon, which was 1973, when she asked me whether I'd be interested in a piece, a solo piece. And I remember telling her one thing, and you will see it emerged in all of her works. I told her that the most glorious note on the bassoon. Let me ask you, what's the most beautiful note on the bassoon?
Most beautiful note on, oh gosh. This is like asking what your favorite food is. um,
Everybody will have a different view. I voted and pushed all my life for high B.
oh, interesting.
Thinking mainly of the last note before, the penultimate, the last but one note of the Villa Lobos, Ciranda de Seta Notus, that goes up the scale and hangs onto the B for as long as your breath can sustain, and then drops to the low C. And if you can keep it in tune, you've made it.
Yeah.
And so I told her about the high B, and there emerged the last note of the lyric sonata, is a high B. And my first observation that I will provide you with, you can quote me if you want. I view the last 12 notes of that lyric sonata in the final movement as Jean Coulthard's private ascension to heaven.
Wow.
Think of that scale going up from the C to the in gradually, incrementally rhythmic movements. You look at the score. Now I will tell you something that you do not know.
Mm-hmm.
That is that there are two versions of the lyric sonata. The one that's published, what do you have? Do you have
I have I believe it's the 1973 edition.
Yeah, you have the published version.
Yes.
I have here the original version.
Oh, wow.
Which I fortunately have a photocopy of, with her inscription to me, and with several notations that Harold, this is already a new pianist. This was not a new pianist, he's still living. Leslie Janosch, have you heard the name? Also,
And I have not, no.
Composer. The story of Leslie Janosch, his name is Leslie Jones, and he came to me once in the 60s. I was in management too, as well as dabbling in the bassoon. And he said, I want to be a piano soloist. And I was very glib and very politically improper. I said to him, the name will never sell. Nobody's going to buy a soloist called Jones, which is not true at all. So I said, what should I do? That's my name. I said, change it, become a Hungarian, Laszlo János. He went home. His dear wife's a fine flute player. We were good friends. And he officially, legally changed his name, but he came to me and he said, listen, I've done it. It's a great idea, but only the second name. I will not change Leslie. So for life, he lived Leslie Janosch. There's a road sign on his mailbox in Langley where he lives, Janosch. And he's not Hungarian, obviously, but he was my pianist for many, 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 many years. He became a bit of a soloist. Actually, he achieved his dream as a solo by his mechanical aptitude. He knew how to operate machinery and decided to figure out a way to take a piano on tour in a truck with a forklift at the back that raised and lowered, and helped with the volunteers in the local community who would then have to unload and push the piano into the church vestry or the school auditorium or wherever. And he his touring career. So János, the Hungarian, traveled around with his piano, and that was his achievement. But he was a wonderful associate, and I worked with him for many years. And I will somehow get this to you. I'm not going to try scanning it and photocopying it. It's hard, wouldn't fit on my scanning screen. It's large, as you see the size. If you email me right now or send me by chat or whatever a postal address,
sure,
I'd be happy to mail you it may take a couple of weeks to get to you, knowing that the postal service is under attack.
Yeah.
I can post it to you in any manner you want, express post or whatever you suggest. If you have a budget, I'll courier it to you. That's
Sure. No, I really appreciate that. And
the timeline. If you want it in a hurry,
mhm.
send me a courier, okay, and I'll give me an account and I'll send it to you. Otherwise, I'll mail to you. It'll cost 15 or 20 bucks. That's fine. I don't mind. But I think you would like to see, and you will see in particular, do you want to turn to your page, look at the last movement. The last movement, and we will start with cadenza. Now, it's a phrase that Jean has written with an 8th note rest followed by 2/16ths, E, D to a group of 5. D, da, 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 D, da, da. So 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 5.
In the first movement?
The first movement before 1, 2, 3, the 4th measure from the end.
Gotcha. Yep.
Okay, there are considerable changes in the, I can show it to you so you know what to look for when you finally get it. Is that clear? Is it visible?
Maybe scoot it up a little. There you go. Oh gosh. So it almost looks like she went up to the G.
I'm not sure what the change. I haven't analyzed what the change. There obviously some changes there. It's done it. I'm sure that was done at a meeting. And she's got something written down below, which I'm completely interpreting. If the upper cadenza is chosen, so it's an optional.
Okay.
So why don't I arrange to send this to you? If you want to give
Yeah, and I can type it. I could type that for you right now in the email that we got going. And I'm fine with it being sent in normal post.
I don't see any, there's nothing in the chat area yet. If you want to put it there, I'll take it down and then I'll. Now, you may want to talk to Leslie Janusz, and I dug up his phone number for you. You can find his email somewhere too. His phone number is 604 530 1930.
1913. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll give him a call. I'd be very curious to hear.
I will now dig up an email for him if I can.
Sure.
How do I get to my emails? I can't get out of you. I mean, you're stuck. I can't get to my email. I don't care.
You have to stare at this, eh?
I'll email you his email address too if you want to contact him.
Yes, I definitely would.
A very devoted guy, and his wife is suffering from very. She's lovely to talk to, but you can't talk to her. She's completely lost her capacity to remember or think, and beautiful young lady, no longer young. Everybody's young to me. I mean, you're a child. There you go. But so he's very, very tied up at home, literally 100% carekeeper, and he doesn't play much anymore. He does compose. He's quite an interesting composer. He wrote a couple of pieces for me, but and I would think he would be under the influence of Jean, too. I'm sure he met her. If not, he didn't meet her. I don't know. I think we had one session together on the lyric sonata with her. But you will see a number of them. The cadenza is one moment. The next moment that you should look at in particular is in the last movement, where Jean accepted changes that I had recommended which I found I thought were technically beyond any sense. It didn't really register very well. I'm trying to find where it is. Last movement. The page numbers are different in mine, in this version. We'll try to find it. By the way, this noise that you're hearing, they're doing the roof today. Just today they started. So they're tearing the house to pieces over our heads.
Oh, you're perfectly. We had a pretty nasty storm here a couple weeks ago, so I've gotten used to hearing the roof workers in our neighborhood.
Yeah, which are you in Ames, or where are you in Iowa?
So I'm just outside of Iowa City, about north 10 miles or so, in a town called North Liberty. It's a lot more secluded than Iowa City. I always joke with people because I tell them I literally live in the middle of a cornfield.
Oh, well, that's good. I did I spent several weeks at a time in Dubuque.
Oh, that's not too far. Yeah.
2 colleges there, but it was actually for the school system.
Mm-hmm.
I would say literally hundreds of schools. I'm looking for this part, I can't find it. There's a whole section where I'd advised Jean that she'd written it in 10x left. We rewrote it with flats instead of sharps, same enharmonic. Here we are. It shows in this original version as letter V in the last movement. I'm not sure whether the printer here, I've got a printed copy. I think it's yes, it's exactly the same.
9/8 measure by the looks of it.
And it's a groups of repeated sextuplets, beginning E sharp, E sharp, D sharp, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, G sharp.
Yes.
Repeated 3 times. Whether it was because my technique simply didn't allow it, or whether it made more sense musically, Jean agreed to do it with allowing the last 16th to be a rest. So it became da 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 da, 5 group of 5 and a 16th note rest, instead of the 6 notes that show in the printed version.
Interesting.
You'll see I can show you that upper that page. Can you read? Can you?
It looks like right now you may have your camera or your screen off. It just has your name right now.
What I suspect this shows is that Jean was a very flexible composer.
Gotcha.
Willing to adjust things. I was discussing it over breakfast with my wife, with Erica this morning, and she said, well, she wasn't Beethoven, who would say, that's the way I want it, that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. That's interesting, though, that I'm very glad to hear that she was that flexible. She seems like she was a very nice individual.
She was a wonderful, warm person, and she was very kind and very genuine. And although I wish I could remember, I did meet her earlier in life when I knew her husband and didn't realize she was a composer at all.
Oh, really?
Back in the 60s. And he was, I know yes, of course. Okay. Adams.
Oh, okay.
He was a businessman, and they owned the only decent furniture shop in the whole city of Vancouver. And when you wanted something stylish, you went, now what was it called? It wasn't called Adams. I'm sorry, it won't come to me yet. It may come. It was a fashionable furniture shop, and he designed beautiful things. And that's where I knew the Jean Coulthard first, because she went for many years by the name of Jean Coulthard Adams.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I actually did not know that.
She was not a feminist. She was the last thing from a feminist, and she didn't think of herself as a pioneer in that sense, although she was.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you a mildly, stupidly amusing story. I played the sonata at least 143 times.
Oh gosh.
My records show that many, and there probably were more. And one of them was for a broadcast in the South African Broadcasting Corporation in Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
And the producers, this was the beginning in the 90s, probably, late 80s or 90s, early 90s. The producers had begun to recognize the women's movement. It was long before the Me Too crowd took over, but we were conscious of the fact that we had to recognize that women had achieved much more than anyone was allowing them to take credit for. And they asked me to put together a program of music for bassoon by Canadian women composers. And I had Barbara Pentland and Violet Archer and Jean Coulthard, and there were one or two others, which I do not remember right now. They sent me back, in those days, telegrams. Remember telegrams? They sent me back a telegram. And they said, it's very well, fine, but we cannot accept the Coulthard.
Really?
So, and I didn't go, I argued, but I was on the way. I went to the airport and flew and I was in Europe first and then finally arrived there. I had the Coulthard with me.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you want the most successful of the women's composers' work?
Yeah, because those were the three.
We asked for women composers. Jean Coulthard is obviously a Quebec Frenchman.
Yeah.
Jean, it wasn't her doing, but she was mistaken. I corrected them, I put them out of their misery, and we played the Coulthard. And that was with a wonderful pianist by the name of Virginia Fortescue. She's unfortunately just passed away last year.
Oh.
So you cannot call her, but she loved the work, and she found some ways. I think she found some of the chords, and Leslie may give you the same comment. The chords are pianistically a little unplayable. I'm not sure if you're a pianist too. I never cared about such things. That was the pianist's problem, not mine.
Yeah, that's how I've played this about 5 or 6 times, and 2 or 3 different pianists, and they all comment on oh, this is a little challenging.
Yeah. Anyhow, that's the lyric sonata. Now, lyrics symphony.
Mm-hmm.
My shame. All I have not sure what you see. Let me go on split screen and I'll see what you're seeing.
Right now, it doesn't look like I can see anything right now.
Why not there?
It just shows your name right now.
Yeah, right. I don't know why. Now I see myself.
Yes, there you go. It looks like oh, interesting. So it's a bound copy.
I don't know I do not find the orchestra score.
Okay.
But I know, and here's the first page, which is a little more.
I believe that's the copy that they have on the Canadian Music Center.
Probably.
Yeah.
I was so foolish. I did not play the piece. I didn't take to it. I didn't find it not playable. Everything is playable. That's sort of ridiculous. I just didn't feel comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. Maybe as foolishly as I'll say it and confess, it didn't feel soloistic enough.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In fact, it is a big cadenza, much like the cadenza of the lyric sonata. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, I don't know the piece. I never played it. Chris Millard did it and did it very successfully. Canadian Music Center. It's probably on recording. I don't know the piece, and I never followed up. And Jean never, even though she'd, without dedicating it, she'd really written it for me because of the success of the lyric sonata.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, gave it the same lyric title, the Lyric Symphony. She knew that I loved her lyricism. That was the thing that caught my attention with the sonata.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote it for me in that way, and I ignored it cruelly and horribly and stupidly. And there it is. It's probably a good piece, obviously, because it involved orchestra. There was never a piano reduction. I wonder if she had sent me a piano reduction, whether I would have played it as a matching piece.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've always said to composers, if you write two pieces of the same genre, you're in business, because then when you suggest it to a producer, you're going to do such the Coulthard, they have to ask you which one.
Yeah.
And then you're sort of, you know, you're going to get one or the other. So it's no longer a question of whether you do Coulthard. You're hooked. Anyhow, I regret that I never gave it enough attention. You'll have to find out what you can about it. And the third piece that she wrote for me in 1999, 1 year before she died. She died in 2000, right? Yeah.
Yes. I think her, Pentland, and Archer all died.
And I played this one for her, and she liked it. It's a little meandering. Do you know the piece, The Legend from the West?
I've read through it. I still have not had a chance to program it, but it's a nice piece.
Shall I put a photocopy of it in with the original score of the Coulthard when I mail it to you?
That would be excellent if you could. Yeah.
I will gladly put it in. It's a simple piece.
Mm-hmm.
I was honored by the title, Legend from the West, and in a way it applies to the composer as much as to the guy she dedicated the piece to. This one is very definitely dedicated to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a haunting, she uses the word misterioso, haunting.
For George. Oh, interesting. And Lento at the top as well.
But I admonished her on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Where's my high B?" And she said it didn't fit. I mean, I remember.
So no high B in this one, eh?
No high D, no high B in it at all. But I really, I repeat, it's worth quoting me or anyone that last few moments of the sonata, lyric sonata in the final movement is a private ascension to heaven. It is so appropriate, and it suits Jean.
Mm-hmm.
I can see her being escorted up there with such pomp and delight and pleasure at knowing where she's going.
Really?
And by the way, here is another copy, and I don't know who. You know, in the 60s and 70s, music copying was a skill, mm-hmm. and a kind of calligraphy, and there were some copyists whose hand we recognized. I recognize this copy as in the hand of Jim Littleford, who was he's a trumpet player, he's still playing very actively. He was a wonderful copyist. Of course, now he's master of Sibelius or whatever program it is they use. But why there was a special copy written. This may be the original. I'll put this I can't copy. It's my only copy of it.
Sure.
But it also has, all the things that I talked about, the changes that I made. Yes, here's another one in measure. Okay, after C, measure 1, 2, 3, and after C, the first movement, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Measure 3 and measure 8, there are changes which Jean authorized.
Right.
You have measure 3 in your score. This is letter C.
Measure 3.
Yes.
Yes.
And it shows A, B flat, G, B flat, A, B flat, G, C sharp.
Mhm.
Da 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 dee, boom, boom. And for some reason, for 2 measures, it's an octave higher. Now, I don't know which is the approved version.
Oh, interesting.
Do you see that? It's not. What do we have in the score? No, in the score it is only in the lower octave.
Hmm.
But here I see very clearly. Da 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 dee, da 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 until the. Oh, big change. There's a big change in the measure before C. Where is C? I can't find it. No, that's a different. I'm sorry, I found the wrong place. Oh. She accepted those changes and they're in the published version.
Okay.
I'm going to have to send you this too. This
Okay.
will be a photocopy of this must be the original solo part that came with the original. You're going to get a photocopy of both the original solo part and the original copy, and you'll see the changes that she obviously authorized.
Mhm.
1 or 2 of them, you're going to have to use your judgment. Which was it? You can see the change, but you can't see which was the one that they decided on.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it could have been optional. She was very open to.
That's interesting to hear that she was very
This
flexible.
was going through and seeing where, and I even see a change in the slow movement, which I thought was absent. No, the only thing in the slow movement, do you have your copy?
Yes.
Letter L, 1 measure before letter L in the slow movement. Hold it, let me find the printed version to make sure it's the same. Before L, 1 measure comes to a long G,
Yes.
and then there's a fermata for a whole measure. There's an extra measure in there. You see, you'll find that there's a G sharp.
Mm-hmm.
It's G sharp, by the way, on the note. The dotted half note tied to an 8th note on at the measure before L is a G sharp,
Yes.
not G natural. It shows G natural in the printed
Mm-hmm.
version. Again, you're just going to have to judge whether which changes were valid.
Right.
The only other change I see in the second movement is in the 5/4, the 5/4 measure. It says Sean Seguin, Regine Coulthard, reminder, due. I can dismiss you. All right, there you go.
Yeah.
In the measure before, counting before L.
Sorry?
1, 2. The third measure before L, I think what the corrections are nothing. I've simply marked what the piano has. It looks like I've given a cue in the 5/4 measure.
Okay.
You'll see that. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. No, it's exactly the same. The echo. Boom, boom, da, da, boom, da, da, boom, 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 boom. But the big difference is the G sharp on the long note before L.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you'll see everything. I'm prepared to send this to you. You don't need to send it back. I will photocopy this for you.
Okay. I
Somewhere
appreciate
I've now got your email. I don't see it on the chat or whatever.
It should be on the chat, but
32 North Park Ridge Road, North Liberty, Iowa. IA is Iowa?
yes.
Okay, I see you. Okay, that's fine. Before we end up, I'm going to write it down. So I go 132 North Park Road, Ridge Road,
Mhm.
Liberty, Iowa. What's the postal code? 52317.
Yeah. It looks like it got crunched up there, so I can.
Okay, no, I've got that. 132 North Park Ridge Road, Liberty, Iowa. Really, they know where Liberty, Iowa is? Okay.
North Liberty, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you there. You'll get that as long as it'll take. I'm sorry. I'm not going to express post it. It never seems to make much difference anyhow.
No, I agree. And
Blame it on Trump. Blame it on President Trump if it doesn't get.
Oh, I will. We could do a lot of that right now with a lot of different things.
You better take some action, you guys. It's your problem, not ours.
Yeah.
But if you listened to it last night, everything was just perfect.
Well, of course, everything with him is always just everything's going well.
It's embarrassing to hear people so incredibly sycophantic, just unbelievable they believe what they're saying. But there you go. Now, don't get me started. What else can I tell you about Jean? She was a warm human being. She was she was a little, if you met her first, she was very tall.
Mm-hmm.
And she was quite reserved and aloof at first. And I know that I met her, I think I must have met her first in the shop where she helped out with furniture sales with Don Adams.
Mm-hmm.
And then she emerged as her own personality. I'm sure she was already recognized before Don passed away, although he died many years before she did.
Oh, really?
She is a Canadian icon. She's if you ask me for the 5 top composers of the 20th century, I would include her.
Really? Because at least, like I agree. And that's one of the things I was drawn to with the Sonatina. It seemed though that during the time though she was very considered very conservative in her writing.
Well, I was pretty conservative. I wasn't prepared to accept dramatically difficult or not difficult, dramatically challenging contemporary repertoire. I still thought that's why we talked about lyric was our one thing. Whatever we had, whatever harmonic diversions a composer embarked upon, the line still had to be lyrical, and Jean was very much a keen believer in that. She incorporated birdsong, although she thought Messiaen was carrying it a little too far. She was aware of parallel activity. She despised the 12-tone crowd. Not the crowd, she loved them dearly. I'm sure she had good friends among them, but she said it's meaningless. It's meaningless. It's trivializing the beauty of music. She saw the beauty of music in the lyric line, and she expressed that in everything, and even in the titles of the pieces: lyric sonata, lyric symphony, legend from the West is so completely lyrical. It's just a gentle song. It doesn't quite get off the ground to me. That's the thing. It has a beginning, it has an end. It doesn't seem to have a middle. It just meanders. Maybe I'm not playing anymore. I have no opportunity to take it out. I must say the picture behind you is crooked. Please straighten it out.
Oh, this one?
Yes. No.
Actually, I think it's...
Oh no, it's not gonna. No, don't try. You're gonna have a calamity.
Yeah. Well, I'll fix it afterwards. Thank you for pointing that out.
maybe the frame is I don't
A
know.
little crooked or something.
Anyhow, I think we've summarized the works. Look at the sextet for winds. If you've got a copy from the Canadian Music Center, it was a very beautiful piece. And I remember, I don't know, I don't remember the parts. Whether we had, I was vain enough in those days to judge pieces. What sort of bassoon solo I got? There's something really juicy, and I'm sure there was.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think the word that applies to Gene is flexibility, which is maybe not an admirable term for a composer. A composer perhaps should be absolutely rigid and convinced that what she has is right. But in terms of writing for instruments that she did not play, she was certainly willing to accept advice and not advice, but comments and suggestions. And you'll see what she incorporated. There are only a half a dozen points, but they're all pretty not very clear, but they were clear to us at the time because we knew what we were doing. And one or two of them, she gave us even the option to do the version that we came up with or the original.
That's
Any questions?
I'm sure if you ask me that in 10 minutes, I'll probably have some.
You're welcome to call back. That's all. I mean, we'll do it by phone, or you don't have to set up another meeting. I think we've summarized the best we can. I'd be very interested to see your opus when you write it. And where are you playing? Are you doing any playing at all?
Right now it's mostly freelance work. I play quite a lot with Des Moines Symphony, Quad City Symphony, sort of around the area.
I played with the Dubuque Symphony as soloist, and 3 times actually. There's a chap John LaPiccolo. Do you remember that name?
That name sounds awfully familiar. Yeah.
We were there for a while, and we became good pals.
Oh, interesting.
I made the mistake in my career of only becoming friends with very unknown conductors.
Oh no.
Yeah, he was a very charming guy. I get a Christmas card from him every now and then. He's still living. I don't know where he's living in Florida. Last I heard from him, but I hope he's okay and solved. He had a big family, so I hope they're clear of COVID and so on.
Yeah, especially down there.
Stay healthy. Stay well.
Yes.
Go out and vote on November 3rd, and do your best for your nation so that it comes back into the position of recognized leader of the world. Right now, it's in the dumps. You don't belong anywhere. You should be ashamed of yourselves. But that's a political comment which you may strike from the record.
I'll make sure it doesn't end up in the transcripts, or maybe it should.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come and get me.
Yeah.
No, my wife is banned from the States because she is a landed immigrant, and well, she can go, but she has to pay $81 and be fingerprinted, and she refuses. We have no occasion to go down to the States anyhow. But
Oh wow.
so among the indignities, I mean, that's probably a legitimate indignity. I mean, we're not terribly fond of what's happened to your country.
Yeah.
And the main thing is that what your country doesn't realize is we are another country. We are different.
Yes.
There may be, we're probably going to have a change of government too. Mm-hmm. Not for the best, I would suggest, but at least we'll do it democratically and without anyone daring to say, if I'm voted down, I may stay in. That's your biggest risk. He's not going to hand over power.
Well, he's doing everything to prevent that.
Go to work. Maybe you stop composing and writing and go and become knocking on doors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very pleasure to meet you. Mm-hmm. I thank Miss Mackey for putting us in touch. What color is her hair these days? Do you know?
Last I saw it was blue, but that was yesterday, so it could be purple now.
Could be purple or orange, whatever.
Yeah.
Nadina.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's a wonderful player. God, You see, you guys have developed such technique beyond our imagination, beyond our belief that the bassoon could do, and yet we still made music even before we had the mastery of this extraordinary facility.
Well, maybe this is a question for
If I practiced, I could have been a good bassoon player.
well, I'm curious, do you think that, because I mean, I listen to younger generations of bassoonists and they've got technique that's just incredible, but I find sometimes musically it's very stagnant and stale.
Well, of course it is. It is, there's always the split between the dichotomy between musicality and technique.
Mm-hmm.
The technique has to come at the service of the musicality. When you're lucky to get both of them together, and if you can even survive as a soloist with just one, then you're doing okay.
Right. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to leave you now. I've got another meeting to go to. I'm zooming around today. By the way, I did write a limerick for you, which I will include, or I might email it to you.
Please do. I was waiting for that.
Well, let me see if no, I can't find it. I have no way of getting. Wait a minute. How do I put it on chat for you? How do I find? Wait a minute. How do I find? If I could find my email, I could give it. No, I will email it to you in the next few minutes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm very thankful of your time. This was an absolute pleasure.
Okay, good to make your acquaintance. I look forward to hearing what you write, to seeing what you write, and carry on and work hard.
Will do. I appreciate it.
Message. Greetings and thank you.
All right. See ya.